And a lot of you guys also know me as Marc. Apparently today, my name is Roxanne Santiago. But anyway, I actually, for the service last night, I actually eulogized my mom at the other church. But I actually, even before I knew that I was going to speak today, because I just found out when I got here that I was going to take the place of my sister, I really wanted to eulogize her here, because in the other church, they knew me as me. In this church, you guys know me as Tessie's son. I'm sure you guys remember a few years ago, it was a family camp. And to me, let my mom go alone. I'm her family. So I went. So, let me start by just reading a few verses from Proverbs 31. I'm sure this is familiar to you guys, but let me go ahead and read some again. Proverbs 31, verse 10, it says, "Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life." Verse 15 says, "She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household." You guys have been a part of that. I'm sure you all know how she just loves to cook. And like many have said, that's what she loved to do. She would cook and feed people, especially me. She used to feed me a lot. Like I said yesterday, she used to feed me 3 meals a meal. In verse 20 it says, "She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy." A lot of you guys that went with her, a lot of you guys from PCC that went with her to the medical missions, you guys really were able to see that side of my mom. And I always wish that I saw my mom as a missionary, except, I never got to go with her to the Philippines. And I was like, I wonder what it's like to see mom as a missionary. And then I realized that she's not just a missionary there. She's a missionary wherever she goes. Even when she was on her hospital bed, in hospital, she was still a missionary. And so I realized that that's something I never really missed. Throughout her life, she was a missionary, whether it was a proper mission field like the provinces in the Philippines or within our house when there were visitors. Anywhere she was, she wanted to preach about or share about the Lord. Let me read a few more verses. Verse 25 to 31. "Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness." I know a lot of you, especially a lot of women, have approached her for advice regarding either your husbands or your children or whatever it is. And I know that she always had very, very wise words to say. And she'll never take credit for that. All of those words aren't just from her. It's from her experience being a woman of the Lord. Verse 27 says, "She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness." And like Sarah was sharing earlier, she would wake up hours before most people, just so that she could, do whatever she had to do. But first and foremost, yes, she would spend her morning with the Lord before anything else. It was always such a blessing to see her Bible and her notebook and her devotional book on her bed, first thing in the morning. Verse 28 says, "Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own words praise her in the gates." Whenever I come across Proverbs 31, it's hard for me to see it just as that. I always imagine my mom. And again, her being that Proverbs 31 woman, she'll never say, oh, it's because, it's not. She always, always, always will give the glory back to God. So right now I'm really supposed to eulogize my mom as a mom. But like I shared last night, it's very hard to eulogize her just as a mom because she's so much more. But as a mom, I remember the way she disciplined us was, I don't know how to put it. She was gentle, but she had scary eyes. Makuha ka sa tingin. If you see her picture there, she has very kind eyes, but little, and it's the scariest thing you'll see. And you'll be like, honestly, I was more scared of her than any police. Makuha ka sa tingin, and that's how she taught us. She wouldn't use any harsh words, or like my brother-in-law Jeff said, she would never do anything to harm your soul. And if it was something that she couldn't do with her eyes, she would just pray for you. But going back, it's hard for me to eulogize her just as a mom because, like she is to a lot of you, she's also my spiritual role model. Very much so. And cheesy as it is, but my mom, she was like a queen to me. She was my queen. I really, I think I like that fact that she was already in her late 30s when she had me, so there's that big gap. So I saw her, we weren't like buddy-buddy. It wasn't that type of mother-son relationship. She, to me, was like queen mom, And at the same time, she was also my most personal and non-judgmental confidant and mentor. I'm sure, especially PCC people, you guys have known the things that she's prayed for about me, and she never really said anything to hurt me, but again, she would just give it up to the Lord, and she was such a strong prayer warrior. I can't find it anymore, but she used to have a bookmark here in her Bible, and I believe she wrote that in about 2005 because we were still in the Philippines when I first saw it. In the back of the bookmark, she wrote down a list of prayers, names, certain things, and I saw it about 2 years ago, and everything was crossed out. Everything was answered. It just, it just really makes me just so in awe of how the Lord really works in and through her life. And it's humbling and it's encouraging, and it's something that I really hope that we all take from her. I believe that even if she's already in heaven, her body in this casket, she's still teaching us, even right now. And I said also last night that Mom has very, very few acquaintances, because if you know her, she'll make herself a part of your life. Once she meets you, you spend a few minutes with her, next thing you know, it's a phone call, next thing you know, it's a visit. Very few acquaintances. Really good friends, though. She has a lot of those. And Mommy is also not a person that you just get to know through stories that you hear. And even if there are a lot of stories that, things that have happened to her in the past, that's not how you get to know her. You actually become part of the story, because one way or another, she becomes a part of your life. I also remember my mom, when living in the Philippines before, when I did not go to church at all, she would knock at my door every Sunday morning. Let's go to church. And almost every week, if not every week, I'd say, no thanks, Mom. But she never got tired of that. Week after week after week, even if she knew she would hear a no, or a no thanks, or a sorry, not today, she would do it. Because she loved me, and she knew that she owed it to the Lord also to lead me to Christ. Even if it was hard, even if it was frustrating for her to do that every week, she did it. That's the type of woman she is. And when it hurt her, again, she would pray. And again, those prayers were answered. You know, there was one time I was talking to my friend, and my friend said, when I become a mom, I want to be like your mom. And it's kind of funny because, of course, this friend of mine also has her own mom. But she didn't say, I want to be like my own mom. She said, I want to be like your mom. So that really drives the point home of how special Mommy really is. Not just to me, but to so many people. She really loved people, and I always like to say that she didn't just love much, but she really loved well. She loved you guys so much, and through that, you know, I think we all have learned a few lessons from just the way she treated people, the way she loved people unconditionally, and loving through. She saw people through the eyes of Jesus, not her own. So, and something I said last night was, if you want to know what love is, if you want to know, like, of course there's the example of Jesus, but if you want to know what love is, review the life of Tessie'seulogy. When you look at a tombstone, you see a few things. You see a name, date of birth, you see a dash, and the date of death, and usually maybe like a few words about that person. If you ask someone, like, what do you think is the most important thing in a tombstone? And someone might say, it's the name of the person, because that's, you know, that embodies the person, that's who the person is. Or someone might say, oh, it's those few words that describe who this person is, you know, really distilled into the most purest form of what this person is. It's what they decided to put on that tombstone. And they might be right, but actually, with Mommy, what counted the most was that dash in between those two dates. No one really thinks of that, but then that dash is the life in between her birth and the day that she went to the Lord. And she really made that count. In Colossians 3:17 it says, and whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to the Father through Him. She lived that verse. Whether she was cooking dinuguan or sharing to people in the Philippines, she did it all to the Lord. Whether it was anything. She really did it all for the Lord. And that's what she would always tell even me, and I know for the rest of my siblings. Mom, hirap kasi ganito eh. Huwag mo naisipin na you're not doing it for the people, do it for the Lord. She'd always say that. And she didn't say it because it was some nice thing to say or hear, because she believed it. And when she did that, that's when it counted for her. So, to end, I was actually the last person to speak yesterday, but today I'm the first, but I'm going to do the same thing as I did last night. If I may, if you have been touched by my mom's life one way or another, I would just ask you guys to please stand up. And knowing my mom, she doesn't want a clap offering for her. She wants a clap offering for him. And so if we can, let's do that right now.